Hey folks, hope y'all are doing great today. My name is Kevin Teller. We're filming this here at our location in Corinth with McLean's RV. Today we're going to take a few minutes and we're going to point out some key features on the new product that Winnebago just introduced. We've had this on the ground here for just a few days. We're in the first half of November of 2023 for a reference. This is a new product that they've just released that's an extension of a previous series. I'll point out a couple of features and differences, but this is the new 36B Solis that features a fully integrated rear bath in the unit, which is something quite new that we're going to take a little bit of time to look at that. I'm going to start off by going around some of the key points on the outside, talk about a few things about the features of the coach, and then we're going to transition to the interior, look at it. It's got quite a unique dinette system in there that actually has 9 different possible configurations to it, but the good news is we won't try to go through all those. We'll point out the key ones, how they're used, and then the key benefits of where you can add additional passengers, which is also really nice. Then we'll take a look at the new rear bath from the back view where we can actually point out some features in there. So to get started, what I'm going to point out is that this is an extension of a previous series. This is based on a gasoline engine ProMaster chassis. This particular version is the 36B. It is on a 136-inch wheelbase Ram ProMaster. The versions that we're looking at here, the 36s, are on a 1500 chassis. We also have a couple of products in the Solis portfolio that are the 59P series, and then there's also a 59PX. They're both basically the same engine platform. It's got a 3.6 liter gasoline engine. It's got a 9-speed transmission. It's good for 280 horsepower, and it can also tow 3,500 pounds in the back. I'll show you the hitch in the back. But the only difference is that the other ones have a little bit longer wheelbase. The 156-inch wheelbase is for the 59P, 59, and the 59PX is actually just a little bit longer on the back end. It's about 15 inches longer altogether. This van, as it sits, is right at about 17 feet 10 inches long total length. So it's very compatible with parking spaces, easy to get in and out, and it's very maneuverable. When you think about the design characteristics on the way that they put one of these together, what this is optimized for is somebody that wants ease of use, mobility, and somebody that can quickly pick up and go and has all of the conveniences incorporated in the van that make it comfortable when you're staying in it. As we walk around the outside, you can see that it's pretty clean and sleek. It's not going to stand out and draw a lot of attention to itself. You can blend in really well if you're just pulled over in a parking lot or staying someplace. This little vent on the side is an air intake for the plumbing system. As you walk around the back, you notice that it does have a hitch with a wiring assembly. This is rated to tow up to 3,500 pounds. We were talking about that just briefly. Over here on the side, you'll see the discharge valve for the gray water tank. This port, I'll show you the tank when we're looking at the bathroom, but this is a housing that contains the actual 20-pound propane tank, and this is an actual easy access. They're incorporated like this, so there's a lot of places where if you were going through an area where there were a tunnel, or if you're getting on a ferry boat or something like that, a lot of those facilities expect you to be able to turn off the tanks and keep those shut off while you're using those resources. So it's an easy access portal for that particular purpose. I've had people ask me, well, what's the point? Why do you actually have that? It does have a connection point here for a 30 amp AC shore power line. This is the external heating vent and intake for the Truma heating and Vario system that I'll talk about when we go inside. So this is replacing the big traditional unattractive vent. It's a very small portal that allows the heater and the hot water system to be able to work. Fuel fill system here. The vans themselves on the platforms, one thing to be aware of if you have certain safety features that you're interested in, the main platforms are going to come with a standard series of safety features. Auto start, stop, collision avoidance, lane departure, etc. But it's possible that a van might be built with some variation in there. So if those are important for you, you always want to look at the build sheet and make sure it's built according to the requirements that you particularly might have with it. This is the outside. Quick overview of those features. We're going to take a look now and move on to the inside. I'll show you some things on the inside of the van. Okay. Now we're going to take a look at the inside. When we go in, I want to point out a few things. I'm going to try to keep the video from being too long and just touch on the highlights, the stuff that kind of make this really unique. There's so many things to talk about. One of the things you might notice right here on the side is some of you that are familiar with our product suite have probably seen this exterior table on the Solis series. Well, they've incorporated, on the Revel series actually, and now they've incorporated it in a new Pocket 36B. It's really nice. It gives you the ability to have an outside table. It's adjustable to compensate for heights where you're camping at. And it's nice and convenient, out of the way, easy to get to. You've got inside, when you come in, one of the things that give Rick a chance to get his camera in here. Okay, so what you're looking at now is the main configuration. The dinette setup, the way it is configured, is what they refer to as a multi-use dinette. This literally has 9 different possible configurations that it could be set up in. This is the most standard and the one that would be considered kind of like the default. It's a 2-person dinette that is set up where you can sit down and have lunch and get around easily, move up and down the cabin. The back has the rear bath, which we'll take a better look at from the outside. I want to focus on a few features on the inside, but I'll start off with the dinette, then we'll take a look up here at the control systems. So the configuration that you have right now is the 2-person dinette. One of the things that's probably the most relevant about the way that this is set up is, of course, it's a small van, 17.5 feet, so everything is pretty compact, and it has to be set up in such a way where you can accommodate the maximum amount of uses of it, but at the same time fit it all in a small space. This table is set up to where it does a couple different things. First one I'll show you is that there's a release mechanism down the bottom that allows you to release it. And also I want to point out the way that the cushions are configured, because the various setups on this thing can get kind of confusing pretty quickly, but I want to show you one thing that you can use as a reference. When you look at the way the cushions are designed, you'll notice that there is a cutout on the bottom part. So that helps you as a visual reference. This is going to allow the seat belts to transition through to the seating person on it, and also the back piece right here, that's the backrest, has a little bit of a panel in the back which you can feel that when you're doing it. So one of the first things you want to try to remember to do is, before you try to adjust the table, you want to get these 2 guys up out of the way, and then you have the freedom for the table to move up and down. So all I have to do basically is pull this release, push it down, it locks into place. Then if you want to convert this into a 1-person sleeping space, you can pull these 2 cushions down and put them together like this. And you have a little over 6 feet by 30 inch. I'm about 5'8", and if I hop up here, I have tons of room left over. You could be at least a 6-foot tall person and fit in this. The nice thing about this configuration is, if you were a single traveler, you could leave it made up in this bed arrangement like this, be able to get up and down the cab, get to the bathroom, get to the galley, and basically leave it like that. It's also intended to be a function that allows you to use it as a couch area. So the next thing I want to show you is one of the other things that I think is probably one of the more important features. Get these up out of the way. It is set up where if you have 4 people that are traveling in the van, you actually have now got 2 spaces that are set up where they have the equipment for them to travel, and they have the seatbelt harnesses. They're 3-point configurations. So the first thing I want to show you is that when you look right here on the side, you have these 2, they're magnetized so they fit right on here. They cover the points that are going to interlock with the cabinet on the side. So what you're going to do with this is you're going to slide this across, and it's going to lock in right there. There are sensors that are going to tell the engine not to start because you're not in a travel mode yet, if it's not fully extended or fully back in its integrated and park position. So you don't want to try to have it just halfway out. It needs to be all the way one way or the other. You'll notice as well that there's a seatbelt catching mechanism there. That locks it into place. The top one slides across. Same thing there. And then there are 2 seatbelt harnesses here. One of the things that they've done that does make it a little easier is you'll notice that both of them are configured where there is a red and a black, and it's easy to match up which position the seatbelt is going to go in. When you look right here, and it might be a little hard for you to see in here, but there is a little compartment here. This is a stowaway pouch that allows for the seat belt for the person that's going to be sitting here. So if you were using this seat, you would simply just put one of the cushions here, the other one here, these 2 cushions I showed you earlier with the little nooks in them for the seat belts, and then you have 2 spots that people can sit in. You could easily leave this down, put it up. It depends on what you're trying to do there. And the other thing I wanted to point out is, yet you do have 2 3-point harnesses, but at the same time, they incorporated a tether right here so that you can put a child seat in this position and you have the additional tether right here to do it. So if you were actually configuring it like this, you would simply just have these cushions over here put up like this, and basically that's what you'd be doing. Okay, so we're going to take another look at the dinette, and like I mentioned earlier, there's 9 possible configurations, so for it to not be too monotonous, I just want to show you a couple more important points. What you have here is this piece will slide out, and then you also have a position right here where this can pop up. This will provide you with the capability of making it into a chase lounge. You could do a couple of different configurations. You can flip this cushion around like this and do it like this, or you actually have the ability to push this back in. There are a couple of release mechanisms right here on the bottom that make it easy. This cushion has a split in it and a seam on the front, and the purpose that it serves is that you can pull it around like this, and now you can actually have an additional backrest here for using it as the chase lounge. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that I showed you the configuration for a single person bed. If you want to make it into a bed that's a full-size bed, it's 54 by 76 inches and it will accommodate 2 people, you would simply pull out the bottom part of the mechanism here, slide this out, and then the last part that we haven't really spent much time on is the table is set up in such a way that it's hinged, and I am going to go ahead and raise it back up. So if it's easier to show it to you this way, if you have it down and you flip it over, it fills in across the bottom. And when you are using the bottom part, you'll notice that there are these additional runners. It's going to sit right on the top of those, so it's a nice stable platform. The other option that you have with it is it will flip over. It rests on this extension here. If you were to pull out the bottom seat, put your cushion over there, move this around, then you actually have the ability for 4 people to sit at the table, and you have the space for that. So it doubles in its functionality. This would probably be the most common where you leave it set up as a 2-person dinette. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we're going to take a look at a couple of more features in the coach. It's a very small package with a lot of things integrated into it. One of the things I wanted to show you is that basically you do have nice sized drawers right here for storage. You've got a place right here that you can put pots and pans down on the bottom area. You do have a 2-burner cooktop. This runs off the propane. You've got a nice kitchen sink with a high-rise single control panel there. I'm going to zip this back up. The other thing that is worth taking a minute and looking at is that throughout the coach we have some situated right on the other side of the cook stove, just on the outside, and then there are some back up in here as well. There is also a plug down on the bottom under the table, so if you're working with a laptop you have the ability to use that. But what they've incorporated in these main power points is that you have an actual 12-volt DC connector, you have a pair of USBs, these could be used to charge your phone, and then you also have AC outlets, and by the sink here it has the ground fault interrupt on it as well. And the other thing I wanted to mention is it's easier to see it with the light on. This is actually a 20-gallon freshwater tank, and it has a visible window here with a light that can allow you to be able to see what your level is. And they also incorporated a quick fill if you just needed to add a couple of gallons on the fly and fill that up. When we're in the back and I show you the water station, there's also a fill spot in the back as well. We mentioned the fact that the coach is set up to be self-contained. So one of the nice features that they're incorporating in the 36B is it is going to come with an optional 5,000 watt lithium battery system and a 3,600 watt inverter system. So for those of you that are not familiar with all those things, to keep it really simple, you have the ability to capture sunlight and store it as energy, because in this particular coach, one of the other things on the exterior of the coach is that it's set up with 190 watts of solar. The previous version of the Solis, the 36A, was 170 watts, but what they've done now is they've put 245 watts just on each side of the air conditioners, just a little forward of it, and 100 watt back in the back side of it. The total of that is 190 watts. So the great thing about it, and I'll show you a few features up there on the control panel, on the ecosystem control panel, but with that configuration, you can capture energy from the sun when you're parked at the park, recharge your lithium system, And you also have the ability when you're driving, it is set up where it has a heavy duty alternator that has 180 watt output that can charge the lithium system just while you're driving on your trip and recharge those batteries. When a lot of people think about solar, they think about lithium. What they're really sometimes not clear on is that they're really for convenience factors. And so what most people will ask is, how long could I run the air conditioner with a fully charged system? And the answer to that depends somewhat on how you're actually using it, how hot it is outside. But for the most part, it's probably only good for about 3 or 4 hours. And the reason that that exists is to make it convenient. What you would use that for is if you're traveling, unless you're leaving Texas, you're going to go to Florida, and you want to pull off on the rest stop and take a break for a couple of hours, then you've got self-contained environment where you can have lunch, take a quick shower, refresh, even lay down for a couple of hours, and you could be in comfort the whole time, get back on the road, let it start recharging itself again. So it's not there for you to be able to stay off the grid for several days running your air conditioner. It's just not practical at all, but it's a really great package to make the practical aspects of traveling convenient, and that's what it's for. So as we look up here, I want to show you basically, this is the control panel section. Everything up here is basically touch screen, and the one I'm on right now is the actual, this is the main screen. This is the EcoFlow control system for your electronics in the coach and for management of your system with lithium batteries and the inverter if you have that option. So what an inverter is going to do for you is going to take stored battery power and turn it back into AC so you can run devices like an air conditioner and other requirements that you have that require AC to run on it. The other output is DC voltage, and what they do with that is it's a 48 volt system, so they have DC converter functions that will step that back down to the 12 volts that you need for most of your systems. So when you look at it right here, I can see that I'm at a 98% charge. As it's drawn right now, I've got 2 days and 14 hours because essentially we really don't have much on right now except a little DC light in the coach. That would change drastically if you put on appliances that are going to draw more current. So basically it's going to last quite a long time when it's doing almost anything right now. But when you look here at the output functions here, you can see that this is actually the input side. So this is what I wanted to point out as well. It does have the ability to charge off the alternator. It has the capability of a secondary alternator. They just have the one alternator on these coaches, which is adequate for what they're going to be doing. You have the ability to pull in solar. And of course, when you're parked at the park and you're plugged into an AC source from a pedestal, it has the systems inside to convert and recharge the batteries as well. So basically, of course, it'll be charging up while you're actually at the park plugged in. So you've got multiple sources to recharge your lithium system. And when you come back over here, another thing I wanted to point out is one of the things that's different in this 36B configuration to the primary coaches is this is the point right here where you turn off. What we're doing here is we're turning off the actual system's output to the devices that are powered by both AC and DC. And this is important because this is now the equivalent of your master switch that was at the door of the coach when you go in and out. You always want to make sure when you leave the coach that you turn off all the potential drains on your battery system, and that's what this is for. So this is your EcoFlow control system. Pretty straightforward. It'll allow you to monitor your usage, and right now the output graph is pretty flat because we're not doing much of anything at all. As you move over here to this panel now that I have the DC on over here, should be able to work, and it does. So this is your water pump switch. You've got a system check right here for your battery system, and you have the actual monitor for your gray water tank. The 36B is set up to where it has a hot water system because it has a shower in it. The 36A, if you're familiar with that version, was set up to where basically it had coach heat, but there wasn't any bathroom facility in there, so there wasn't any need to heat water. So the difference between the two systems is that this is the Truma Combi system because it is actually a system that's going to be used to provide you with coach heat and hot water supply. So if you want to get in and look at the way that this is managed, you turn it on and it's a pretty simple graphic. You scroll through till you get to the one that's flashing, and that allows you to make adjustments on that particular one. Right here, the first one is basically the heat for the coach. Go back to the display, and then this basically is your water system. It's off now, and basically you can turn it on and off here. You've got a couple of different modes. You've got boost, you've got eco, you got hot. But with it on eco right here, what it does is it's set up to actually make the conservation of your water a little better and the energy required to heat it for whatever you're trying to do. Another really neat feature that Winnebago has incorporated into these coaches that I'll show you while we're talking about that, and it kind of makes sense, is if you come back here, there's a mechanical switch. and it's called the Eco Heat. And what this basically does is, the way that the Trumacombi system works is it's a self-contained loop that circulates the water and blows hot air over a coil that's being heated by the propane source in the unit. So basically that's going to generate heat to heat water and heat to heat the coach at the same time. What they've incorporated here is a really neat configuration where it will recirculate that water before you actually turn it on and circulate it back through the tank and pull it up, so that the water that's on demand as soon as you turn it on is going to be hot immediately. What the benefit of that is in a small coach with a 20-gallon tank for the wastewater and a 20-gallon reservoir for the water, you want to not waste any water. So as soon as you turn it on, it's hot. You don't have to turn it on and let it run for a long time till it actually gets hot, like you do at most houses that don't have on-demand systems in them. So this is equivalently, basically kind of the same thing as an on-demand system. All right, so a couple more things. You do have overhead compartments all the way across. They are reinforced. They do have quite a bit of cargo capacity. You've got storage up in the front area there, and then you've got convenient features all the way through. You can access the bathroom in the back, and we're going to take a little bit of a break here, walk around the back, and then we'll take a look at the bathroom, which is a really big feature on this as well. Okay, welcome back. We are now at the rear of the coach with the doors open. These basically both swing a full 270 degrees to give you easy access to the back. But the most important and most obvious feature here is that the new 36B does incorporate a full rear bath across the whole back of it, which was one of the things some of the customers were saying they really wanted in this coach. Winnebago's done a great job with this. You have enough room in there to get in there and take a hot shower. You could pull off on that long trip and refresh yourself, or of course when you're at the campsite. You might notice too that it does have a cassette style toilet. There's a lot of different people out there that have, you know, some like the tanks, some like the cassette style. It really depends on how you're trying to use it and what makes the most sense. For me personally, I actually think this is an advantage, because you have the flexibility to dump this anywhere. You can take it off, you can go into the restroom at the park, you can go to obviously to the dump station facility. It could even be a porta potty situation that's out there, you could put it in. So the way that these are set up is, a lot of people get confused. They sometimes think these are composting toilets, but they're not. It's a water reservoir that you put the chemicals in the bottom. It has a tank on the top, so essentially it works the same way as any other RV bathroom. There's a water source on the top that will flush the tank, and then there's a tank below it that it dumps into. The thing about this is that it is easily to remove. You can pull this off, take it out like this, and then all of these are going to be set up basically where there's two compartments. If you want to take the two pieces in half, you simply pull this latch, lift it up like that, and of course it's bouncing around on plastic, making a lot of noise. So this is the compartment that holds the wastewater. In the top of it right here, you have the ability through the top to fill it up with the water. It does have a button right here, a battery operated, and there's a gauge there. It does drain the water in with you just pushing the button. This tank is basically dumped out by running this into where you're going to push this air vent right here, and basically it's very simple. This is what I was talking about, the convenience factor of it, that you can basically dump this anywhere. Of course, if you were someplace and you wanted to take a shower and you wanted to move this out of your way, now you have the entire rear shower area available to you. It also will allow you to just, if you're in a situation where you don't really actually feel like you need to take it, you can just leave it at home. When we look in the shower, if you look up at the top right here, you'll notice that there's a screen perimeter. There is a shower curtain that comes with it that allows you to put that around the whole outside of the loop and keep the water inside the pan, keep it off the walls. The bathroom door does have a privacy screen door that pulls across and locks in place. Your shower curtain would then hang down back behind it. They've incorporated a lot of storage compartments in the back here. You have a place up at the top that is actually like a mini wardrobe. Of course, right now this is brand new. It's got the box with the shower curtain, the exterior shower curtain, and so on, other parts that go in there. So it's kind of crowded up there right now. You got all these portals here that are very useful. They've also incorporated another little nook back here. One of the nice things about the Winnebago manufacturing process is that all of these components for these cabinets are all manufactured there on site, so they can optimize their design to allow you to put everything in there that needs to be in there and use those little nooks and crannies for additional storage. It's a great feature and a great concept. One of the other things that they changed from the 36A to the 36B is the way that the actual propane tank is accessed. It is still stored basically in the same area, back in this corner. But this has an actual 20-gallon tank that is located right back here. What they did differently with this is that it's on a quick release mechanism where there's a couple of latches inside it that you just pop loose. When you release those, then you can actually use this tilt mechanism and tilt the tank down, and it makes it a lot easier to get this in and out and load it. If you're familiar with the previous design, there was a door that opened like this and you had to kind of lift it up and set it down in there. One of these propane tanks empty weighs about 17 pounds, and then when you put 20 pounds of propane in it, now you're managing something that's almost 40 pounds, and when you're trying to lift it up and set it in there like that, it can be kind of cumbersome. So this is a really good design. Some people are concerned about the tanks being on the inside. They do have ventilation systems out through the bottom. Propane is heavier than air. If it were left where it was leaking somehow, some way, it's going to fall down to the bottom and go out. It's not going to raise up like smoke does. Some people just don't realize that. Propane is actually a liquid that transforms to a gas as the actual unit's being used. That's the storage point for that. It has a door here. The other point that I just wanted to kind of come over and show is that this is the water station for the unit. You have your valve right here where you can fill your tank, or you can just use this as an input mechanism. The way that the van is designed is it's intended to be self-contained, so the most normal application is that you would fill the reservoir inside the 20-gallon tank and then shut this off and leave the van closed up and be able to use the water that way. It has a pumping mechanism that'll circulate it even when you don't have water as pressure coming in from the outside. This shower hose right here is intended to be used for both an outside shower. You can rinse off here, set it in here. You could even put it in to dry. And then there's a mechanism on the top right up there where you put it if you want to use it as an inside shower. And then the other thing that is probably familiar to most of you is that you do also have the design on the back door where you can connect this across, and there's a shower curtain that comes if you want to use it as an outside shower assembly. This is Kevin coming to you from McLean's RV in Corinth. Just wanted to take a quick few minutes to give you an overview of the new 36B Winnebago product, features and configurations. If you have additional questions, give us a call here. Come in and check one out in person. Look forward to seeing you. Happy camping.